Hello, welcome to another edition on our channel. Today we're going to be discussing a very important conversation, which is how to request for salary increments. Perhaps you've been working in an organization for quite a while and you think it's time to get that increment, but it's not coming and you want to take it bull by the horn. In this video, we're going to teach you how you can go through that process. We're going to also debunk some salary increment myths that are flying here and there that make people scared of asking for salary increments. And we're also going to discuss which is the best approach, if it's better to have a one-on-one conversation or if it's best to do this through emails. Then also we're also going to discuss some of the things you should put into consideration before asking for salary increments. And then we're going to drop samples that you can work with, even email templates in case you want to send out email for salary increment, right? So do well to stick with us to the end of this video because we have a lot of value to share with you. If you do have questions, drop them in the comment section and ensure that you follow this channel and share this video and encourage us so that we could be creating more relevant topics for you to enjoy, right? That said, let's get straight into the topic for the day. Come along with me. So first things first, let's talk about four salary increment myths that hold a lot of people back and prevent them from asking for increments from their bosses and from their organization. Number one is it's going to be a waste of time. The truth is it's not going to be a waste of time. If you do ask for an increment, even if the organization honors it or does not honor it, it's actually not a waste of time. If they do not honor it immediately, they usually either put that into thought because they now know that this particular employee is not comfortable with what they are receiving. So it's not a waste of time in any way. It goes a long way, trust me. Second myth that hold a lot of people is I do not know how to ask for salary increments. Well, if that is you, that is why you're watching this video and you're at law because in this video we're going to discuss the whole process and I trust that by the end of this video you'll be able to hold that conversation with whoever be it your boss or your HR and request for a better pay for your work. The third thing that hold a lot of people back from asking for salary increments is that they will get sacked if they request for salary increments. You would never get sacked because you ask for a salary increment. Every employer knows at some point that their employees or their teams would request or would need improvements in whatever compensations they were given when they started working with them. So you do not get sacked for asking for salary increments. And the fourth and the last salary increment myth I'm going to share for this session is employees are not supposed to ask for salary increment. Employers are supposed to give increments when they want to. It's also not true. At any point of the contract, an employer is free to give increments when they deem it fit for an employee, and an employee is also fit to request for an increment when they deem fit or when they feel that the value they are giving to the organization is far beyond what they are being compensated. So that is how it goes, and I hope you learn from that. So now that we've debunked some of the popular myths, salary negotiation myths, let's now talk about some of the things you should consider before requesting for salary increments. Now, we understand that every organization has their process around compensations and stuff like this, right? So usually it's either entailed in your employee handbook when you're employed or in your contract, right? The organization usually talks about how you can go about resignation, salary, requests, and all those things. So you need to check through your handbook once again to see if there were specific instructions or guidelines around requesting for salary increments, or if the organization has an already stipulated method for increasing salaries. So, for instance, there are some organizations that every 2 years, every employee is entitled to a review. Some organizations every 5 years, some every 3 years, some organizations every year, right? Depending on the kind of contract you have with the organization. So, you want to check the kind of contract you have. If there's an already laid down approach to salary increment, it could also be wise to just wait for that period. So if there's an increment every 2 years or every 3 years, it would be unwise to spend 1 year and you want to ask for an increment, or it would be unwise to ask for an increment a year before the second year that the organization would have generally given you an increment. So you need to take note of that. Secondly, you also need to take note of the overall compensation. So it's not just about only the salary. Sometimes the organization might not necessarily be in the position to raise your salary, your base salary, but there are other compensations that they will throw along or throw to you that could compensate you for the work you do aside just salary. So you want to also look at other compensation. Could it be health? Could it be health? Could it be your HMOs? Could it be your investment plan? Could it be trading support? Could it be whatever it is? You need to look at what the organization is willing to throw to you aside just that. So you also need to put that into consideration. The third thing you need to put into consideration before asking for salary increment is, what is the market saying? What is the competitive salary in the market at the moment? What is the economy of the country that you are operating from saying at the moment? So sometimes you want to look at the period you're going to ask for this compensation. Is it the right period? Is the economy doing well? And all those things. So you need to put all those into consideration before asking for a salary increment. And then you need to also do your research. Are you being underpaid? If you're not being underpaid, it also gives you an idea of how far you can stretch or not stretch the conversations around your compensation. So, for instance, if you look at where you are in the competitive scale of your field or your industry, and you later feel, okay, you need 20% more compared to what you're earning, and that is what you're already earning is like a competitive fee. So you might want to consider the organization if they give you 10% instead of 20%, because already you're at the best rate in the market, in your industry, in your country. So you want to look at all those things and not be rigid with your conversations around it. So these are some of the things you need to take note of when going into this conversation about salary negotiation. So what is the best way to approach this? Do you approach this through email, or do you need to have a one-on-one conversation around this? So I will put it this way: if you're in an organization where you have access to your direct boss or your direct line manager, this is a conversation you would best have one-on-one with your boss, right? So that he knows your position from you and not just from email. But if perhaps you're not in the kind of organization where you have that direct access, then you need to send a mail to maybe the HR now regarding your request. Also, if you're in an organization where you even have direct access to your boss, you would want to approach it with a one-on-one meeting, and also follow it up with email after the meeting. So after having that meeting with your boss, you also send an email to follow up. So here is a follow-up email to the meeting we had based on my request for an increment of XX percentage. Do you understand? So that is what I would generally advise. Okay, so after laying those foundations, we're not going to talk about the real deal, how to politely ask for a salary increment, right? Now, the process of asking for a salary increment does not start when you sit in the same office with your boss and you're about to have that discussion, or it does not start when you start typing your mail. No, the process of asking for a salary increment actually starts from the research you're going to do. So let's put it this way: why are you asking for a salary increment? 1, 2, why should they give you a salary increment? Do you understand? So you want to do that research. You want to be properly informed and properly armed to why you think the organization or why you're worth an increment in the organization. You need to be prepared to explain that to your boss or to your HR. And you also need to be prepared to say, okay, this is what the market is saying, this is where I am, I think I should be more than this position. You also need to be armed with that information. So that said, you need to start with your research. When you're done researching what the market is saying, you define why you are worth this increment, and then the next step you want to do is decide on when to have this meeting, assuming you're having a one-on-one meeting. So generally, I would advise that you have the meeting for your salary negotiation pretty much, let's say, on a Thursday, right, or on a Wednesday. The reason is because Mondays are usually heavy, at least in most organizations. There's a lot to meet up with for that week, and everybody seems to be busy. That might not be the best day where you want to sit with your boss or you want to start sending a mail for salary increment. So, because consider that over the weekend, perhaps there were multiple mails that came in, and by Monday they're trying to sort those mails, and then you're sending yours. It doesn't really make sense. Or there are a lot of activities to meet up with on Monday because of the non-activity during the weekend, and you're coming to fix a meeting for us, and we want to discuss about salary increment on Monday. It also doesn't make sense. It's also the similar approach for Fridays, right? Fridays is usually maybe a lot of people are turned off, they are already in the weekend mood, so they might not even really give you all their attention. It's just my perception, right? I could be wrong, but somewhere in the middle of the week, say Wednesday or Thursday, right, would be a good day. So you pick a day, you could send that message and say, I want to have a meeting. You could send it a boss, or you could meeting one-on-one. Say, because I would like that meeting with you on so day. Please give me a good time where we could have that conversation. And then he or she will fix that for you, and you will have that meeting. Now, the next step is the day of the meeting, right? Now, you will be seated face to face with him. How do you start the conversation to say, I need an increment? That is why I've decided to call for this meeting, or that's why I decided to meet with you, right? So, when you're seated in the same room, you want to start your conversation by one, stating your position with the organization, stating where you are with the organization, how far you've come with the organization, the stuff you've achieved with the organization, and how much you key into the organization vision. When you have done all that, you can now go ahead to state the position you are in financially, and how your current salary does not help you meet your financial goals, right? You do not necessarily need to give out anything that is not relevant to him or her or to the organization. You just want to state as simple as, my current financial obligations do not match with my salary, right? And I wish that the organization can help me increase my salary so that I can meet my financial goals. Do you understand? So something in that line, and then you would want to hear what they say. The other approach to put it is that you can go straight and say, I need a salary increment, and I want to find out from the organization what it will take for me to get that salary increment. So now this could come in a way to say, okay, to get a new salary increment, we take it from this department to this department. There could be conversations like that. So you also want to hear from them and see where that takes the conversation. So once you've entered the office and you've had that conversation, you've made your position plain. Don't worry, we're going to put out a template of how that conversation, maybe a demo conversation, is going to be like, so that you see. And when you hear what they have to say, ensure that you also go armed. What salary increment are you asking for? And be reasonable about what you're asking for. Do you want a 10% increase? Do you want a 5% increase? And so you want to really check and know how many percent you're asking for, and if the organization can weigh on with that, right? So once you've also said maybe this is the percentage you want increase to your current earning, you sit back and hear what they have to say, right? So we're going to put a template again of how this conversation can be, or a sample of how you can approach this conversation. When the whole conversation around it is done, when they've told you their thing, they could be like, okay, give us some time to think through it, or they could say, okay, we'll get back to you, or we could start implementing, or they can go straight up and say, okay, we will start implementing it in the next quarter, in the next 2 quarters, however it is, just get their feedback and know what they want to say. But usually, nobody will scold you for asking for an improvement. That's not going to happen. So when you get that feedback, you take that feedback and you go back. So you also send a follow-up mail. I usually recommend a follow-up mail, especially if it was a one-on-one. Send a follow-up mail. You're writing to formally document your previous request, which you had a one-on-one meeting that you need an increment to your salary, with a 5% increment, 10% increment, whatever the case may be. So you pen that down and you send it also as a mail. So you have a double source to that information you have passed down. So that is how you are going to approach it. We're going to put it after now. We're going to put in another slide that will just explain all the step again. So that all right, so we've come to the end of this video. So once again, let me just recap what we have discussed and give my final tips on how to approach your salary increment conversations with your bosses, right? Number one, you have to know why you're asking for a salary increment. You also need to know the salary increment you require, right? Number two, you need to do your research. What is the market saying? So it's not maybe only about what you want now. What is the market saying? What is the economy saying? Right? So you need to put that into perspective. Number three, you need to be confident, right? You shouldn't be scared that you're asking for an increment from any organization. Organization should be happy to take care of the people who work for them, right? So you need to be confident when asking for your increment, and also consider the overall compensation as against just maybe the salary. So sometimes the organization might not increase the salary, but they might add more compensation to you. So look at what those compensations are and how they are going to affect. The next thing is to ensure that you talk from a place of value when having that conversation. So when having your salary increment, don't just say, oh, I want an increment because this, that, and all. Talk from a place of value. What value have you added to the organization? What value have you brought in? What have you helped the organization achieve? Speak from that point of view, and then show why you need that increment. And then lastly, whatever form you use, either through mail or in person, ensure you always follow up your conversation with an email. So if you had a conversation with salary increment, ensure you send a follow-up email with that respect. So that's how you're going to approach your salary increment conversation with your bosses. If you do have any question, ensure you leave them in the comment section. We'll be more than happy to help you answer those questions. And if you need to talk with someone, also leave a comment and we will reach out to you and see how we can help you in your process. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. Ensure to share this video with people, and feel free to also comment on any other topic you want us to discuss. We look forward to helping you, and all the best in your career journey.